Okay, let's get started with a real usage of the partitioner. At this point I have selected the partition identified by /dev/sdb10. We see here this has an ext4 file system. The partition is about 12 gigabytes in size and has about 7 gigabytes used. There is an old Ubuntu version 12.10 operating system installed here. Normally this should wave red flags for us to stop and not use this partition because it's already being used. But by other means I know for sure that this is old and no longer of value to me. Next I click on the Change button to edit the partition for usage for installing Ubuntu. The partition editing dialog pops up. Here we can edit the selected partition. At the top we can change the size of the partition. Generally we can only make the partition smaller than the size shown here in megabytes. If there happens to be free space after the partition, we can make the partition larger. This won't rearrange the partitions to make the necessary space for us. My suggestion here, if you need to do more than simple size reduction of the partition, don't use this to resize the partition. Instead, I recommend using gparted, a more complete and friendlier partitioning tool. Gparted will be covered in another video. Initially, the Use As is set to Do Not Use the Partition. We want to change this. Click on the Use As selector to get a menu of options. In most cases, we will want to select the topmost ext4 journaling file system. This is the newest of the Linux file systems and has several advantages. The journaling allows faster and safer recovery from a corrupted disk. Corruption can typically happen if the computer is accidentally powered off due to a power interruption during a storm. If you are installing to a solid-state disk or SSD, a better choice is the ext2 file system. Journaling can increase memory wear on a solid-state disk due to repetitive writes. The ext2 does not include journaling and solves that issue. Next, click on the selector for the mount point. We get a menu with several options. Select the top item with the /, which is for the root file system mount point. Alternatively, we can simply type in a /. We also want to check the Format the Partition option. While it isn't always necessary, it does provide a small test of the integrity of the disk surface. It also makes sure the partition is clean of any old information. Formatting done by the partitioner is only a high-level or a logical format. It does not rewrite the entire disk surface as a low-level format tool would. This does make the format faster, but also formatting does not contribute significantly to memory wear for solid-state disks. Let's review everything here to make sure all is as we want it. Starting at the top, is the size correct? Did we even change the size? Are we using the desired file system? Yes, the ext4 journaling file system is selected. Did we check the box to tell the installer to format the partition? Yes, we did that. Did we select the / as our mount point? Yes, that is correct too. Another thing we can verify, is the partition we wanted to use still selected in the window below the dialog? We can usually see that peeking out from under the dialog. If not, we can grab the title bar of the Edit Partition dialog with a left mouse click and hold, then drag the dialog out of the way to verify our selected partition is correct. If everything is correct, click the OK button. Nothing is committed yet. We are only setting up our proposed changes. We will have a second chance to check and correct anything. Just that it's easier to get things correct here rather than coming back to fix them later. It should go without saying, if we are unhappy with anything here, we can always click the Cancel button. Cancel will stop the edit without even proposing any changes. We are almost done with partitioning. One more double check of everything. We see our selected partition /dev/sdb10 for this example. The proposed mount point is the / for the root file system. The box is checked, indicating we propose to format this partition. Size looks correct. Now we want to select the location for our bootstrap. If we only have one drive, well, we only have one choice, which would be /dev/sda. On this computer I have two drives. Since I do plenty of test installs on this computer, I want the bootstrap on the second drive rather than the first. I have selected /dev/sdb on the 320 gigabyte drive, the same drive where I am installing Ubuntu. Again, if you are unhappy with the way the partitions looked, you can at this point click the revert button. This will remove all proposed changes and reset everything to look as it did when we first entered the partitioner. We can also use the back button to move back a step in the installation, the step before the partitioner where we choose the method used to select the installation partition. Maybe let the installer do the work for us rather than this something else partitioner method. If you are unsure or uncomfortable about continuing with the installation, there is always the quit button. Quit will bail you out of the installer completely with nothing changed on the computer. If you are ready to commit to installing Ubuntu, click the Install Now button. The actual installation will begin. Okay, what happens when you don't already have a partition available to install Ubuntu? All of my disk space is allocated. I don't have any free space to allocate partitions. I have identified two partitions that contain old and out-of-date stuff. I can safely delete these partitions to make space. The partitions are identified by /dev/sdb13 and /dev/sdb14. First, I select partition /dev/sdb14 in the table. The 4 is a bit obscured because the table column needs to be stretched wider to see it. I then click on the minus button to delete the partition. There isn't any confirmation before the partition is deleted. But again, this is a proposed change to the partition. Nothing will be committed yet. We see that the /dev/sdb14 partition has been replaced with free space in the table. I then select the /dev/sdb13 partition in the table. I click the minus button again to delete this partition. The /dev/sdb13 partition is gone. The space for the /dev/sdb13 and the /dev/sdb14 partitions are now combined into a single free space. Okay, now that we have some free space, let's create a partition for installing Ubuntu. Select the free space in the table. Click the plus button to add a partition. The Create Partition dialog pops up. For the partition size, we enter 12288. Size is in units of megabytes. The size we entered is 12 times 1024 megabytes, which is exactly 12 gigabytes, an ideal size for an Ubuntu system partition. Since the free space we are using is allocated from an extended partition, we select Logical as the type for the new partition. If free space was not part of the extended partition, we would select Primary instead. We will use the default location for the partition, at the beginning of space. Click on the Use As selector. Select the ext4 journaling file system, the top item in the list. If this is a solid-state disk, ext2 would be a better choice to reduce memory wear. Click on the mount point selector. Choose the / as the mount point for our root file system. That is the top item in the list. Review the configuration for the partition to make sure everything is correct. Then click on the OK button to finish creating the partition. This is a proposed change to the partitions. Nothing is committed by this button click. To abort creating the partition, you can always click the Cancel button. Okay, we have the new partition added and pending to be created. Verify all looks correct in the partition table. If something is not correct with the new partition, we can still fix it. Select the partition. In this example, the new partition is /dev/sdb13. If we decided we didn't want this new partition, we can click on the minus button to delete it. Or if it simply needs something changed, we can click on the Change button to edit the partition. Then edit as previously demonstrated.